Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. Everybody's here. We're talking all the games from last week, all the games that are coming up this week, and all the football news from in and around the league. So, yeah, that's kind of, what's going on. Before we get started, and while I've got your attention, if I can ask you to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, that will be amazing. So, let's get cracking. It's time for the football podcast. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Paul, do it.
Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. It's your weekly update of football-based nonsense from a Teesside, Humberside,
Trentside,
yeah, lovely.
All the
Trentside flavoured twinge. That's correct. It is the. We never did come up with a name for it, did we?
Just a football podcast.
Football podcast. it's a serviceable name. The Commanders podcast. No takers.
Commando podcast. Did I miss that invite?
I mean, yeah, that just
Now we're talking.
opens up a whole mess of opportunities.
Team.
So, we're talking football then.
Of course.
Okay, so what do we want to talk about in a football vein?
I dare say we've got a whole load of predictions to go through from the last 7 days or so.
Not really. Not what you would think. Because do you know why? Because of the 6 games that we predicted, the first game was called off.
But it's okay because I'm pretty sure it was a really sort of like short distance that was travelled for that game as well. So
only less than 4 hours before kickoff on a Friday, so people definitely won't have taken time off work to travel down there. It definitely won't have taken 6 hours plus from Nottingham to Bournemouth. I mean, it's a short trek, isn't it, ladies and gents? And yeah, and if only some level of common sense would kind of think it's. I was ready for this because I didn't travel, so it didn't knock me as much as it would have if I would have travelled for it. But Exeter and Barrow cancelled their game the day before, so the poor people from Barrow didn't have to travel all the way down to Exeter, a similar length journey. And then to stick on top of that, I don't know if I'm treading on any toes for the rest of the podcast, but just to kind of, they really need to start getting this cancelling game sorted out, because Blackburn Millwall cancelled 45 minutes before kickoff. So people have travelled up from Millwall, and you can say what you like about Millwall. I'm sure there's some decent fans there, but to travel all the way up to Blackburn and then for it to be cancelled 45 minutes before kickoff, then apparently it was fine at 3:10, which is even more infuriating. But then just to kind of add a little kick of that to that, Crewe Portsmouth was cancelled about an hour 45 minutes to an hour before the kickoff. And obviously by that point, people from Portsmouth have travelled, a similar distance to the Forest fans travelling. I just think at some point they've got to, as someone said, if only they had something called a weather forecast that might help them with these kind of situations to avoid all this. I mean, the cynical Forest side of things are Forest have complained about it and put a formal complaint into the EFL, and Bournemouth are still sticking with the stadium was damaged. Isn't their stadium quite new?
It's not new as such. Obviously, like it's where they've always played, from what I understand. But they've renovated it over the years. So obviously, when they got promoted to the Premier League, they decided, no, 13,000 is probably about right for us. That's probably all the fans that we can attract. So they've got a very small stadium,
right?
But it's supposedly Premier League standard.
But just as a little side note, Bournemouth had 7 first-team players out on Friday. But that's got nothing to do with the fact that it got cancelled. And they wouldn't. Yeah, they couldn't possibly play the game on Saturday either. Because that wouldn't work either. That type of thing. So just as a little footnote to that.
Rumour has it that maybe those 7 players were injured by pieces of falling stadium in the wind. Tie the two together. It's got to be that, surely. Has to be.
But I'm sure so that Sky get their pound of flesh. It's been rearranged to the 3rd of May, which is the Tuesday before the end of the season. That I mean, I'm not kind of casting aspersions, but at that point, it might have everything riding on it. It might have absolutely F all riding on it. But fingers crossed it's the latter, just to give a big FU to Sky and hopefully Bournemouth, because at that point they'll be out of the playoffs or something like that. I doubt it, but
Listen, don't go messing with the tactical genius that is Scott Parker. But anyway, we'll move on. So obviously, we'll just have to null and void that first game of the week.
So no surprises, no points gained when the game isn't played. So moving swiftly on to what was supposed to be a comfortable Middlesbrough defeat of Bristol City. However, Paul.
Well, the way you'd worded that there, I thought you were Rain Man or something, that you'd seen the future and whatnot. But no, sadly, it was a defeat, but it was a defeat for Middlesbrough away at Bristol City. I'm just racking my brains. It was Andreas Weimann and Antoine Semenyo scored the goals for Bristol City.
Correct.
And Borough got a late consolation from everyone's favourite tree, Matt Crooks.
Can I just double check something at this point? For the said player?
Yeah.
Did he pick up some
He
sort?
did indeed. He was booked during the course of the game, and it was his 10th yellow card of the season. So he has incurred a 2-game ban, one of which was served this past week against West Brom. We'll come to that game. The second of which is this coming weekend against Barnsley.
And that's why, because when I was writing my predictions in the book, I went, oh. And I had to rewind and make a correction. So here's where it gets real interesting. Everybody apart from Matt had Middlesbrough down to win. Matt had Middlesbrough down to draw. So as a prediction-based point system, 0 points for everybody there. Luckily for Paul and myself, we both had Crooks to score. Matt predicted 2 Bristol City players to score, and might have pulled one off there, and might have got the correct. I have written in my book Weimann. There we go. So, point for Paul, point for Matt, point for myself. Unfortunately, Stu yet to get out of the gate. Moving swiftly on to Stu's team, which is Hull City, and they went up against QPR, or Queen's Park Rangers as they're known to their friends. Stu?
Yeah, this was a bit of a strange one, both scoreline and what happened in the game. So it finished QPR 1, Hull 1. Hull went 1-0 up after 26 minutes with a goal for Loney Force, and then Chair equalised for QPR in the 75th minute. However, the Hull goalkeeper, Ingram, was stretchered off in the second half after being knocked unconscious after colliding with Albert Adoma. Baxter, our other keeper, is still out with a hand injury, so then an impromptu debut was handed to Harvey Cartwright, who is 19 years old, and he was playing before they scored the equaliser. So I kind of feel sorry for him really, because I bet a 19-year-old making his debut, QPR were like, right, shoot from anywhere, boys. And yeah, unfortunately he couldn't hold out to hang on to the lead, so yeah, finished 1-1.
Again, one of those where everybody had QPR down to win quite heavily in a lot of cases. Luckily for Paul, did predict Chair to score a goal. Now then, when I said everybody had QPR down to win quite heavily, I did omit that I had a 1-1 draw. So that's 2 points for me. So the week looks a little something like this. Paul's on 2. Stu is on 0. Matt has got 1, and apparently the week's looking pretty good for me because I'm on 3. But wait, there's more. I'll be right back. No, sorry, I'm still here. That's only half of the week. There were 3 more games. Let's see if Nottingham Forest get a game in the second half of the week. But before that, Stu's going to tell us what happened in the Hull City versus Barnsley game.
Hull played for all of 2.5 minutes and then got absolutely smashed by a very, very poor side for the rest of it. It finished Hull 0, Barnsley 2, with Styles and Morris scoring the goals. Absolute embarrassment of a display. The new owner decided that this was the game that they were going to bring in a bumper crowd and offer tickets for £2 to anybody that went with an existing season ticket holder. Or I don't know if it was possibly you could take the kids for £2 as well, whatever it was. But yeah, they really boosted the score, and then the number 2 ended up coming to bite them on the arse by not only losing 2-0 to Barnsley. I might add that they are also at the bottom of the league, or were at the time, and have not won an away game since April 2021 before Tuesday night. So yeah, absolutely delighted, of course. Still mad about it now.
Well, if you were mad about that, Stu, strap yourself in, kid, because everybody had Hull down to win this game. Like literally everyone. I'm not even hanging anything back here. And Matt was the only person to predict a Barnsley goal scorer, and it was neither of the ones that scored. So, did anybody say bagels for tea? Because that's what we got from that game. It's fine though, because Middlesbrough went up against West Bromwich Albion, the WBA. That's not women's basketball. It is the West Bromwich Albion. So, Paul, how did this go?
So a little background. I don't know if we covered this on the podcast last week, but this was I don't think it was this wasn't the 6th game that West Brom had with a new manager in charge. I think this was only Seabrook's 3rd game, maybe, since he'd taken charge of West Brom, because they decided to change their manager after a bit of a sticky patch of form. This was, however, their 6th game in a row, or they were coming off the back of a 5-game stretch where they hadn't scored a goal. So after half an hour, you can pretty much guess what's happened. That's correct. West Brom went 1-0 up. Absolutely ridiculous. With a goal by a guy called Jason Malumbi. Apparently it was his first goal for West Brom, so no wonder why we haven't heard his name before. Middlesbrough then kicked on and had a much, much better second half and managed to bring it back to 1 each with a strike by Paddy McNair. He covered quite a bit of distance, he had good length to, get himself amongst it, shall we say, to bag the equaliser.
Managed not to cock it up either.
No, he didn't, a nice stiff drive into the bottom corner.
He really gave West Brom the shaft, let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, he did.
He proper shafted them.
Good and proper. The winner was then scored by podcast favourite Marcus Tavernier. I'm pretty sure at some point now it's the point of the podcast where we have to basically, does Stu have to do some sort of forfeit or something like that? I'm pretty sure we were under no illusions that he wouldn't ever score again if he played.
We fucking lost to Barnsley. How bad do you want to make my week? As if it's not bad enough.
But yes, the ball was sort of bobbling around the area and he managed to just tuck it away nicely. So yes, 3 points, very well taken by the Borough, and they march on into the top 6, or did for a time being.
Stu, if you can just reach under your chair, grab the box and the chicken and the tranquilizer gun, and we'll get started. So,
I was going to say, just take the knife out your back first.
An interesting situation has unfolded here because, Paul, you went with a 1-1 draw. You didn't get any goal scorers. Stu had West Brom down to win. Did not have any goal scorers. However, then it takes a complete and utter turn, a 180, where Matt Moore decides, you know what, I know exactly the score of this game. It's going to be 2-1. To Middlesbrough. I believe there was some discussion throughout the week where we highlighted that Mr. Crooks had gone out. Matt had predicted Crooks to score, so there was a little bit of... but 2 points for a correct prediction. Can't sniff at that. I also had Middlesbrough down to win, so a point for myself, no goal scorer for me. So, the PNE, Preston North End, going up against Nottingham Forest. First things first, did they play?
They did.
Second things second, absolute goal fest, yeah?
Oh, just, you couldn't stop them. Everything, you like, phone pinging with no goals at all, kind of thing. It was... It always cracks me up when you watch it on Sky, because obviously they like to give it the big kind of, cracking game. I watched that game. It was not a cracking game. I went to Tesco 15 minutes into the second half, because that's about as much. Forest didn't look like they were going to score. Preston had plenty of chances to kind of thingy, and I was like, yeah, there. F this, I'm going to Tesco. Yeah. It was not good, and then I came in time for the final whistle, and the commentator went, "Well, it was a cracking game, 0-0, but it was a cracking game of football." And I felt like bullshit, mate. Unless you had half an hour of absolutely awesome football, which I very, very much doubt, by the way those miserable fans walked out of that ground on the TV, I was like, not a chance was that a cracking game of football. So yeah, 0-0. very few chances. Forest probably should have had a penalty midway through this first half. But apart from that, lackluster, I think, is the thing. We've hit a bit of a wall. I think at Forest, it's kind of our 60 goal a season man is out, and they're struggling to fill that void right now.
So, other than Paul, who had a 1-1 draw, everybody else had Nottingham Forest winning this 2-1. But with no goals and obviously no goal scorers, it's zeros across the board. Second half of the week produced no points for Paul and no points for Stu. 2 points for Matt and 1 point for myself.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, you got 1 point.
Hang on a second.
Where is your magic point from?
Because I said a draw in the Forest Preston game.
Ah, clever. I like it. Rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged. Look, I'll add it to my book because it makes a difference.
Oh,
Damn it.
Doesn't make a difference.
It makes no difference. But we haven't quite.
Now it's gonna look super dodgy when I win the week. My apologies for terrible bookkeeping. In fact, Paul got 1 point for the week, giving him 3 points total for the week. Stu ended the week with 0 points.
Golf scoring. I win.
Matt also finished the week with 3 points. And obviously I won the week with 4 because apparently this is the most backwards situation we could possibly imagine. So it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't understand. What do you want to tackle next? Pun intended. Do you want to tackle a break? Do you want to tackle the news?
We'll take a short break. We'll then do predictions for next week, as not that the news is extensive, but there are certain situations that have occurred within the last few hours, shall we say, that may have a huge knock-on effect in the footballing world. So yeah, we'll do next week's predictions, and then we'll do the news and the goings on and what.
I'm not going to foreshadow it so much, but I'm guessing that you are talking about Grant McCann's appointment at Peterborough United. There,
it's a seismic shift in the world as we know it from all and sundry. Yes, of course.
Right. Well, in that case, we'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
It is indeed. I've already forgotten what we were going to do. We were doing next week's predictions.
Then it were.
Memory like a sieve. Now then, to my knowledge, and this was helped by Mr. Woodmansey, I believe we're back to 3 games this week.
what?
FA Cup.
Hey, we'll have another podcast in between.
The Middlesbrough game on Tuesday.
Ah.
Oh, well, that's going to screw my notepad up.
It's going to screw my notepad up.
Tuesday the 1st of March, Middlesbrough versus Tottenham Hotspur in the FAR Cup.
Well, that is absolute nonsense.
If you want, I can ring them and ask them to postpone it at about 7:42 p.m. on Tuesday. After all the Tottenham fans have made the long, arduous journey up to the northeast.
Can you? You're going to have to go and blow some pieces off your stadium there to accommodate this.
It's made with Chinese steel, I think. So it's
Balsa wood.
probably due to fall
Look at
down.
it. It's right there on the thing. Middlesbrough
Middlesbrough.
Right, well, while I'm writing this in the book, we could be talking other football. And that other football starts... I was going to say, starts a little bit like where it finished, but that isn't true, quite. The most Yorkshire team in the land take on the most Middlesbrough team in the land. Barnsley go up against Middlesbrough in the first game of the week. Paul, you'll pick last. That's how we do things here. I'm feeling fruity. Let's go to Mr. Stuart Woodmansey for his pick for the Barnsley Middlesbrough game.
I've gone for a straight reverse of the result that they got against us, so that Barnsley are going to lose 2-0 to Middlesbrough. And I've gone for Sporrar and Balogun, because it's about time he put one in. Looks like he's been fairly handy in the assist department from what I've seen of highlights here and there.
Didn't have a great game on Tuesday. Got probably not the best choice of phrase given what we were saying about Mr. McNair, but he got pulled off at half.
And what did he do on the field?
He didn't look great.
Even more reason for me to pick him then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matt?
I've gone for 2-1 to Middlesbrough.
And your scorers?
I've got Woodrow for Barnsley. And Connolly and Sporrar for Borough.
So it's weird that, because you nearly had my prediction. I've also gone with a 1-2 to the Borough. Woodrow scoring for Barnsley. I have Sporrar and Watmore scoring for the Borough. Paul?
I'll go for an optimistic 0-3.
Wow.
He's got his McNair out on the table there and put it all out for everyone to see.
I'll go for. I think he's found his boots now, so I'll go for Tavernier to get another one.
That was his issue also.
Do you know what? I'm just going to say it just to piss you off. Tavernier 2.
Ah.
And,
There is no chance of me getting my McNair out and whacking it all over the table.
We need to get to a point where we can refer to it as having a paddy, and then obviously just like, obviously that just takes on a life of its own, and it just goes from there.
If you've seen the picture, that takes on a life of its own isn't the worst phrase you could repeat there.
Yeah, it's he's a healthy young man. Let's put it that way. Who hasn't scored for a while.
Not
Do you know what?
Wait.
Like seriously, I think in back-to-back games. Oh no, because it was with the QPR game wasn't the weekend. So within the last 3 or 4 games, 2 of the 3 centre halves have scored. So it's time for Anthony Dykesteele to step up to the plate. So I'm going to go for Dykesteele to get the other one.
You don't want any points from this game then.
No, points are overrated, man.
Okay,
I'll be content with my 1 point for the inevitable win.
That's the Barnsley Middlesbrough game all wrapped up. So, Nottingham Forest are taking on my boys, the Bristol City crew. Matt, you will pick last for these predictions. I'm going in first because I don't want anybody stealing my predictions because I hate that. It's 2-0 to the Forest, and I'm just going to keep predicting Johnson and Zinkernagel to score until that combination comes up and I can move on to somebody else. Stu?
I've gone 2-1. I've gone for Johnson and Garner. and Wyman for Bristol.
Okay. Paul?
I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
Interesting.
I'll have Keegan Davis to score for Forest.
Okay.
And Semenyo, I think it is, for Bristol City.
Okay. Matt, tell us how it's really going to go down.
I have gone for 2s each.
2 apiece.
2-all draw. And I'm picking up the Zinkenagel-Johnson combo for Forest goals. And then Vyman, again, just getting some extra points again. And Chris Martin, because Derby player coming back to Forest, why not?
Okay, there we go. That is that game also done and dusted. Peterborough United take on Hull City. So, Paul, why don't you let us know what you think is going to happen in this game?
So this is what Stuart was referring to slightly before, in that Peterborough have appointed a new manager. So all that means, though, is that they've sacked Darren Ferguson for about 6 to 8 months.
Resigned on Sunday.
Oh, did he? Oh,
Yeah.
well, either way, all it means is that he's left for now. So he'll be back there within the next 12 months.
Can we also just take a moment to recognise that they've replaced a manager that's been there now 3 times with a guy who's going back for his second stint in charge. So there's nothing like sticking to who you know.
It's a lovely bit of obviously keep it in the family sort of business, isn't it? So
I shouldn't kind of think, but have you been to Peterborough? It's the way they do it.
Well, that's the listeners in Peterborough.
I was going to say the alienation of the Peterborough arm of the Cookie Cast podcast
Got
supporters.
6 fingers on the end of that arm, so be all right.
Just to swing it back to the McCann appointment. Apparently, he signed a 2.5-year contract, and he's brought in his regular backroom team as well. But yeah, he managed for nearly 2 years between 2016 and 2018 there before he was dismissed by the current chairman. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one that for me. I'm pleased he's got a job because I feel like he deserves it after the way that he was kind of ousted with the takeover, and especially what's happened at Hull afterwards, in the sense of the little winning run that they had as he left and the subsequent hangover of results that were pretty good. The new guy's finding out pretty sharpish that honeymoon is over.
Yeah, it certainly does seem that way. So obviously we've got the lesser seen, I suppose, return of the old manager. Oh my God, what the hell's happened there? Hang on.
I think he's getting told off by somebody in his house, but I'm not quite sure they are living or breathing. Possibly the electronic witch.
Oh God, no! Ask her why we don't. Ask her why we don't talk about Bruno. Matt, why don't you tell us what you think's going to happen in this?
I've gone for a 1-all draw. I couldn't quite fully commit to the old boy coming back and snatching a win because Peterborough are god awful. So I've gone for 1-all draw. Marriott for Peterborough, 4s for.
Are you sure? Because we went through this whole Barnsley thing about 10 minutes ago.
I'm sure.
Okay, just
Particularly this one. A 1-all draw. I've not gone like.
I know. I am aware. Have you seen how bad we are? See, Paul knows.
Keeping Paul up.
Sorry, I had to just go and discipline the assistant there. So, I have absolutely no idea what sparked that. She just chimed up of her own accord.
Peterborough fan.
Clearly.
This virgin there.
1-1. I will now need to find a Peterborough goal scorer, though, won't I? So that's...
Grant McCann can't score for them.
Oh, he might try.
I've seen him on the sidelines. Yes, he will try.
We'll get back for his shift in the pub. I've never seen a manager look more like a pub landlord than...
But he'd never reached the bar. I think he's quite short.
Right, just because I'd like to see how Andy would spell this, I'll go for Smodix.
Small what?
Yeah.
The
We're
opposite
not talking about Paddy, are we?
Do you know what? If anybody's tuning into this for the first time, just so you're aware, we don't always talk about Paddy McNair's dick. Just
from now on, we do. Yes, so I'll go for Smodix to score for Peterborough, and yeah, I like a bit of force.
he was awful in that Barnsley game. He got taken off. I felt that was unfair though on him because again, it's just there's no midfield, so he's never going to score if nobody passes it to him.
I mean, it's been known to happen before, but it's a lot easier if they did.
I've just gone with a 1-0 for Hull victory. KLP putting an absolute blaze on the Peterborough side. So just down to you then, Stu.
Yep, you're all delusional. Hull are going to lose 1-0. And thankfully for you, Mr. Cook, just to see how you spell it, as Paul has just said, I have gone for Ward to score the Peterborough goal.
That'll be QH.
Umlaut. So, as I am now apparently more reliably informed, Middlesbrough are apparently playing again in the far. Going up against Tottenham Hotspurs. Interesting. Very interesting. This is one of those, I was like, I'm known for backing the home side. It is FA Cup and anything could happen. But I feel Middlesbrough have been kind of showing the way in the FA Cup up to this point. So then I was like, where do I land? Where do I go? So I've gone with 1-0 Middlesbrough win. But just apparently to upset Stu, I've put Tavernier down to score. I didn't realise this was so offensive to Stu. My apologies. I don't know what else I can tell you. Stu, why don't you tell me what you think's going to happen in this game?
This is the point where you might want to turn your ears off, Paul, because I think for Tottenham, having beaten Manchester City, I think at Manchester City, and then losing to Burnley, I think that if they're ever going to win anything this season, they need to concentrate on this a little more. So I've gone for Middlesbrough 1, Tottenham 3. I think they'll put a decent side out, especially having seen what Borough did to that Man United side that they played against in the FA Cup last time. So I have gone for Crooks because I'm assuming he can play in this one because it's a different competition.
Well, even if not, his ban would be up by then.
Cool. So I've gone for Crooks, and then for Tottenham, I've gone for Mora, Son, and Kane because at least two of them will score. So points, please.
You're not wrong.
Matt?
I was just a quick aside. I was listening to Bob Mortimer's podcast, and he was saying because Borough had beaten Everton and Man United, and Forest had beaten Arsenal and Leicester, that they should just be put into the final. I was like, yeah, I'm on board with that, Bob. But I've gone for, unfortunately, Bob's wish will not come true. I've gone with 2-1 to Tottenham. With Crooks, doing his comeback and probably getting himself, if he keeps on playing that well, and he's a very tall guy, getting himself a move to the Premiership if Borough don't go up. And then Kane and Son for Tottenham.
Paul.
I also think it will be 1-2, but with the caveat that I believe that will be after extra time.
Here he goes. It's FA Cup weekend.
Caveat.
It's draw. But does that mean it's going to be 0-0 then at full time, or?
No. So that just means that if it finishes 2-1 to Spurs in 90 minutes, I don't get the point. I don't get 2 points. I will go for Balogun to score, because if he's going to score against the team, it might as well be the team he probably hates more than any other. And I reckon Kane will get 2 for Spurs.
There it is. The game's predicted. Done and dusted in the book. So, I hear on the grapevine that there might be something in the way of some news to discuss.
I mean, unless, obviously by the time this goes out, unless people have been living under a rock, they'll be aware of the escalating situation going on in the Ukraine, and it's already having a bit of a knock-on effect. It was discussed today that the Champions League final is set to take place in St. Petersburg in Russia later on this year. I think UEFA had already made plans to change that destination. They haven't. I don't think they've said where. Yeah, I mean, they've just talked about moving it from there.
No, nothing at point of recording. Nothing has been officially confirmed. Because the meeting is set to happen like later in the week. So if you're listening to this Friday afternoon, maybe it might already be officially called off from being in Russia. But I think they're having to sort of cross the T's and dot the I's in terms of getting the formalities in order before anything gets. But it's, to all intents and purposes, a lot of the news outlets are reporting it has been cancelled in Russia as of today, which is fully understandable, fully expected, really.
Yeah.
Yes, I was informed this morning by the stats mistress, who was like, "I've got something for your football podcast." Like, whoa, steady on with the double dipping. She was like, "No, the news is reporting that apparently FIFA have moved." I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll make sure you get credit for it."
I say FIFA, good old trusty old FIFA, are also monitoring the situation, because obviously Scotland have got Ukraine in the World Cup playoffs, and Russia have got Poland on the 24th of March as well.
Just on that note as well, I think from that qualification route that involves Russia, I think there are 3 other teams involved. I know one of them was Sweden, one of them was Poland, and there was the third one's just escaped me. But they've put a joint signed statement in together to ask FIFA to come up with another solution to basically kick Russia out of the tournament entirely. And also as well, there are 2 Russian sides that are still in Europe, whether I think it's the Europa League games, and they've been asked to expel them from that tournament as well. But that'll be the obviously UEFA side of things there.
Yeah.
just like it seems really weird that we're on a football podcast and we're talking about the fact that a war's just broken out. It's just bizarre, and like how instantly that's just changed everybody's outlook this morning, and yet like Ukraine could be getting blown to shit as we speak, but yeah, they've had time to get their football letters of protest in. It's just bizarre, so bizarre. Like,
yeah, to bring it back to like a UK sort of based issue as well. Obviously, Chelsea are owned by Roman Abramovich, and there's talk that sanctions need to come in against him.
They're pushing, aren't they? But I don't know what they can do, because he doesn't have a permanent. Well, he does have a residence here, but he doesn't actually live here.
Yeah.
And they were saying that on the last time he had to apply for a visa for the UK, he didn't bother. He wasn't going to go, so he didn't. So now I think if he's been in the country, it's only been like a fleeting visit. It hasn't been for any length of time. So
I mean, we are talking about a guy who obviously money is no issue. As in, I'm pretty sure there was a story doing the rounds that someone once put the wrong fuel in his private yacht, and to pay for it to be drained or a new engine put in his back, already got 20 million or something like that. And he's just like, just do it. So obviously he's worth several billion dollars or several billion pounds or whatever. So obviously to him money is no object. But yeah, there's a whole load of murky sort of like things going around, like the fact that he's a benefactor and whatnot, and it's just not. It's not really what we want to be talking about, really, is it? To be fair, but
I do have something much lighter for the end of the podcast, so just think on that.
Another one I've got on a sort of a more championship flavoured setting. Derby County's administrators are reviewing the offers to buy the club that were made before Wednesday's 5 p.m. deadline, and are seeking clarification on a number of issues before deciding on a preferred bidder. That was by Sky Sports News earlier today. I think it's still rumoured that it's Ashley, isn't it, that's the preferred choice.
Yeah, the game, I think they had a game, they lost, didn't they, earlier this week?
Newcastle, Derby, so yeah, Millwall.
Derby, yeah. And in the director's box there was the old MD that he had when they were at Newcastle. So it's one of them though, isn't it? Like if it preferred bidder stage, I suppose that's just a showing face to the fans to sort of say, look, we're still seeing it through. But didn't the report say as well that they'd had last minute interest from people who hadn't been part of the bidding process up until this point?
I think that always seems to be the case. I don't know if it's just like chances, just sort of thinking they might be able to sort of sneak in, like under the deadline and stuff like that, just to sort of see if they can get a bid passed that's not going to be, checked for due diligence and things like that. But
I heard it was a Mr. Cook. He'd offered them a chomp and a bag of Watsits, and they were seriously considering it.
And he said, if needs be, they can have their own like sort of section of the podcast, I think.
So here's what happened. Here's what happened.
Is it the bit just after we finish recording?
Somebody overheard me in a pub say, "Oh man, I was totally going to put a bid in," and they took it seriously. So I don't know. I checked what I had in my pocket at the time. It was like a sweet wrapper, one of those, those stamp cards you get for when you get free coffee, and like I think it was £8.56, and they were like, "We'll take it." So,
but the card only had like seven things on.
Yeah, it wasn't a full card.
It wasn't a free copy yet.
No, absolutely not. So yeah, they'd have to work to get that free coffee, but apparently it was enough. Everything was all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. So I've got as good a chance as anybody.
Obviously, the the timing of certain things that happen in the world is absolutely spectacular, but it is, as we're recording, the Europa League and Europa Conference League games are being played, and one of the aforementioned Russian teams has just equalised in the 93rd minute to take their tie to extra time potentially. Although the goal is currently being checked, so
I wonder where those video referees are.
yeah,
How
exactly.
they're trying to dispel that goal.
Like, right, what is there a way that we can just chalk it off so we don't have to have this conversation?
Anything else from a news-based perspective?
Yeah, so I did mention this earlier in our group, but from a slightly strange managerial appointment point of view, Bradford City have today appointed Mark Hughes as their new manager. Now, Bradford City are in League 2. They were once a Premier League side, but haven't been for a number of years. So League 2. Mark Hughes' previous job was as the Southampton manager in the Premier League. So, granted, that was in December of 2018, I believe, that he was last working. So he hasn't worked for about 3 years. However, he's dropped 4 divisions to take his next role.
He's taking champ manager too far, isn't he?
I mean, either that or whoever owns Bradford has just been like, do you reckon we could get him? Yeah, it's worth a chance. He can, worst he can say is no, and then when they says that, he says, "Oh no, balls, we've got to give him it now," or something like that. But yeah, has to be I would imagine he'll be the most high-profile manager in League 2, other than the Pools manager, of course, and quite rightly so. But yeah, just a really, really sort of completely out of left field appointment, that one.
A strange one, yeah. Rebuilding a reputation, I presume, kind of thing.
It would certainly seem that way. I mean, you would have. He's the sort of manager that normally ends up sort of going into a struggling down the bottom end of the Premier League, wondering if they're going to get relegated. They'll change the manager just to see if they can have a bit of a turn in fortune. But yeah, he's decided to go.
After the Watford job, he probably thought, fuck it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, if I can't get that one, I can't get any of them.
Good point. Update, the Zenit St Petersburg goal was ruled out for a push, handball, I believe, so the situation continues.
Any more news?
Nothing more from me, but I believe Stu does have the good news on. And I think I might have worked out what this one is.
Well, the team in question were mentioned earlier in the podcast. However, this week, or the week gone, an elderly Burnley fan put out an advert in their local advertiser rag for a lift to Turf Moor from next season. Unfortunately for the gent in question, he'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's. One of his remaining pleasures is his season ticket, which is very relatable, other than the fact it's a Burnley season ticket. He was a bit worried about how he was going to get to the game, and it seems a bit of a strange thing, but he put out an advert in the local paper. It was shared on Twitter and then subsequently retweeted 12,000 times, received 41,000 likes, and off the back of that, Burnley have offered him a VIP day at the stadium to meet the manager, the team, sit in the dugout and all the rest of it. And more importantly, he has found a lift from Southport to Turf Moor for the home games for next season. So, it's one of the nice things. Even if you don't like the team so much, there are still good people around. And this fella who, unfortunately is diagnosed with Parkinson's, is still going to get to go and see his team. probably underperform in the Premier League. So. Yeah, no, I thought it was a real nice thing, because if that was somebody like local to me, if that was you think on it, if that was like your dad or your granddad or whatever it would be, like, I just thought that's awesome. Just a really nice thing to do.
It's quite a trek from Southport as well. It's not really close to Burnley. It's
Merseyside, isn't it? So.
Yeah, it said that. I'm not gonna. You look up the story yourself if you want to see. I'm not gonna give you the guy's name, because I'm a child, and I will not finish the podcast without laughing. But still, I still thought it was nice. And like you say, especially if it's a little way to where it is, it's even better. But there was. Do you guys ever see that? This is going back a bit. There was a program. I think it was a Channel 4 thing called Bank of Dave. And it was this like wheeler dealer business type dude from Burnley. He was a bit of like a local celebrity there, and he didn't like what the national banks were doing, so he set up his own bank in Burnley. He's known for like a few other businesses and stuff around the area, and I don't know if he kind of is one of these where he gets off on being a bit of a sort of local celebrity and stuff as well. He had offered to pay for this guy a taxi instead. to and from the games, which again is a lovely thing to do, but he's not doing it necessarily without gain, because he'll get the publicity. And anyway, the guy got offered a lift just from a member of the public, if you like, or just a friendly face who we can talk about the actual game to on the way to and from the game. He's even going to move from the thing I've seen. He's even moving his season ticket so he can actually sit next to this guy who's going to give him a lift. So a bit of companionship rather than a bit of publicity for this other guy. So I thought that was even better.
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned last week, it's nice to see when football comes together to make stuff happen. It's a big world. And it would be nice to see. It would be nice if we were able to finish every podcast with one of these where, the football communities come together to make something happen, which counteracts some of the other things that we talk about frequently in the football podcast. Paul, did you have something else to add?
I was going to say it, but I'll save it. I'll save it for next week's, and we'll have that as next week's good news.
A teaser. My word. Come for the football conversation, stay for the teaser. Fantastic. Well, if there's nothing else, lots of shaking heads, then I will take this opportunity to thank you gentlemen for joining me and taking these lovely people through the sometime murky waters of the football world. We will be back next week for more football bants, football chats, football predictions, and reviewing the games that we've predicted this week. It's all here. It's all right here. But until next time, we will see you later. Thank you very much, boys. See you later. So there you go, what do you think to that? Another one done. Another week gone. Another week of games gone. Another week of games to come. There'll be more news, more games, more football. Same time next week, or thereabouts. Thank you for listening and or watching, but wherever you're getting your podcasts, please do consider subscribing. It means a lot to us and helps us bring you more fantastic content. You can also check out our website, thecookiecast.com. You'll find social media links and email links, and you can get in touch with us through those methods. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.